Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Crystal?
Indeed we do. Lots of big breaking news this morning. Elon Musk may have just sort of ousted himself as Twitter's CEO, results of a poll. We will get into all of that after a bunch of other machinations and bannings and rule changes and all kinds of chaos has been playing out over at Twitter. So we'll get to all of that. We also have new Twitter files detailing some of the coordination between the deep state and Twitter under the old regime. We also have new news regarding Kyrsten Sinema. She, of course, is no longer a Democrat, and she is filing to run for Senate as an independent, putting Democrats in quite a bind for this next election cycle. Also, a little update for you on the whole Trump NFT sale that people have been very interested in. Apparently, they sold out. So there was a market for them, whether we thought it was ridiculous or not.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Sari's going to dig into the latest with regards to alien life. I'm going to dig into the latest with regards to Binance. But before we get to any of that,
Live show. Put it up there on the screen. Austin, Texas, Paramount Theater, Friday, February 3rd. We will be there. Crystal, Sagar, and friends. We're going to do some fun stuff while we're down in Austin, so go ahead and buy your tickets. I think you guys will all be in for a very interesting and special night and treat. So I think it will be a great time. It's going to be the last one, I think, for quite a while. Go ahead and buy your tickets. If you've been on the fence, or buy it for a friend, for a gift, as you said. It's
great Christmas present, guys.
I would also not be remiss. We have a gift subscription going on right now on our website, breakingpoints.com. You can gift a subscription, a premium subscription, to any friend or family member. I've actually heard of some people who share it and buy it for their parents. They watch the show together and they kind of talk about what they agree and disagree on, which is kind of a fun, like, family bonding experience. Not sure how I would do it, but to each their own. That's something that you should consider if the show means something to you. So there you go.
My dad has been retired for a while. My mom just retired this year, and now they both have started religiously watching the show. And I'm honestly not sure how I feel about it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pluses and minuses.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's get to the big news to start this morning. Yesterday evening around 6 p.m., Elon Musk tweeted out this poll. Let's put it up on the screen. Should I step down as head of Twitter? I will abide by the results of this poll. Very conveniently for us recording this show at 8 a.m. It was a 12-hour poll, so we have the official results. And yes, he should step down, won fairly handily, 57.5% of the vote. No was at 42.5% of the vote. 17.5 million people voted. So assuming he does actually abide by the results of this poll, which he, claims that he will ultimately do, the tenure of Elon Musk as head of Twitter may be coming to an end, which is all very interesting. There's a lot more to say about that. Let me give you some of the context and the backstory of how we got to this point, because over the weekend there were a flurry of rule changes and journalists who were banned and journalists who were brought back and all sorts of things that were going on there. One of the big ones, let's go ahead and put this up on the screen, that caused a real kerfuffle, let's say. Twitter support out of nowhere tweeted this out. We recognize that many of our users are active on other social media platforms. However, we will no longer allow free promotion of certain social media platforms on Twitter. Specifically, they say, we will remove accounts created solely for the purpose of promoting other social platforms and content that contains links or usernames for the following platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Mastodon, Truth Social, Tribal, Nostr, is that how you say that? Nostr, I don't know. And Post. They say we will still allow cross-posting content from any social media platform. Posting links or usernames to social media platforms not listed above are also not in violation of this policy. We have a screenshot of the official policy that they laid out on their website, providing some of the details. I mean, frankly, well, first of all, this is an insane overreach to start with. But second of all, it's really confusing because they're like, you can't post links to other sites, but also you can cross-post links. The list of the sites that they were banning was extremely narrow and very random. Let's go ahead and put that next piece up on the screen. So you've got a ban on linking out to Linktree, to Facebook, to Instagram, to Mastodon, to Post and others. But other things like TikTok, Rumble, Getter, Gab were not banned. YouTube also, notably for us, was not banned. And, I mean, this is quite a far-reaching policy. how many people on Twitter have their various links in their bio? I mean, a very common thing.
Right.
So it's very heavy-handed approach, and clearly because you have a lot of people now saying like, hey, I'm leaving Twitter, come follow me on Mastodon. No accident that those types of sites were the ones that were listed and banned, and the other ones were not.
And then yet, this morning, what do we wake up to, Crystal? Overnight, they have decided to reverse that policy entirely. So we had a lot of commentary, and I had a whole spiel about why the open internet is good and why I'm a supporter of open protocols and RSS, and now it's no longer even the policy on Twitter itself. What is it? Who knows? Stay tuned, I guess, as they say.
Well, because I was waiting for the hammer to drop of, I mean, millions of accounts would be banned under this policy. Because again, like I said, it's so common to put in your profile, hey, here's my Instagram profile, here's my link tree with all of my various links. And a couple things happened on Twitter. Elon actually tweeted out, going forward, there will be a vote for major policy changes. My apologies won't happen again. A lot of people thought this was in reference to this policy, though he didn't specify. He was also going back and forth with a right-wing, I think, YouTuber who was like, hey, in a very friendly way, like, hey, just a heads up, you know, I include all my links posted here to promote my small business and other things that I'm doing. This seems like this policy is going to be a problem. And Elon was interacting with that and engaging in that in a, you know, sort of positive way. It was like, oh, that's a good point. Thanks for letting me know. So the other piece is that it was very likely that European regulators, like this would be illegal under their sort of like anti-competitive regulation. So that may have been a problem here as well.
I completely agree. Mr. Beast is one of those as well who came out and said, he's like, this is a ridiculous policy. He was like, if you're going to put policies in like this, I think you should step down as CEO. So to have, you know, probably the largest YouTube creator speak out against it.
Has he been an Elon supporter? I have no idea.
I mean, I think he's been like enjoying the fun.
Yeah.
Is one way to put it.
Yeah.
In terms of who Elon gets to run it, we simply have no idea. He also tweeted, those who want power are the ones who least deserve it. And be careful, or he's like, as the saying goes, be careful what you wish, as you might get it. Somebody says he must have the CEO picked out already. Elon says no one wants the job who can actually keep Twitter alive. There is no successor. When podcaster Lex Fridman offered to take the job, he said, quote, you must like pain a lot. One catch, you have to invest your life savings in Twitter. It has been in the fast lane to bankruptcy since May. Do you still want the job? Which could explain also some of the major stock sells that Elon has been doing. He's sold nearly $3.5 billion in Tesla stock.
Yeah.
Not at a favorable price, by the way. The overall stock is 57% down on the year. This is something you and I were talking about before the show, but I do think is an important corollary to all of this, which is, what is the impetus? It could be the chaos. I really think it is the reputational damage that's happening to the Tesla brand. It's the vast majority of his net worth, 57% down on the, over the year. He's been blaming macroeconomic conditions, but that doesn't account for such a precipitous drop.
The other
in stock.
automakers are not seeing a similar drop.
Especially when you compare to other automakers, and Tesla has far better fundamentals than the other automakers. They have much longer demand. Obviously, they have controlled supply. They don't have any sort of increasing cost. So what would explain that? It's purely reputational. Second was the actual Q score, quote unquote, of like how people feel about Elon, and Tesla specifically turned negative for the very first time. Tesla was one of the most beloved brands in the United States up until the Elon acquisition of Twitter. So I think that the macro problems that this is having, both on his wealth and really on the major company, the one he probably would be like when he dies, what's it going to say? Like Tesla
What's his
CEO,
legacy? Yeah.
It's going to be Elon Musk.
There were a few investors who had, before all of this, started chirping and chiming in on Twitter being like, I really want Elon to stop doing this. I want him to focus on Tesla. So there's clearly some upset there. At the same time, by the way, let me just put this piece up there. There was another rule change that he announced just as context leading up to this poll over whether he should stay or not. He said Twitter will start incorporating mute and block signals from Blue Verified, not Legacy Blue, as downvotes. I mean, it's sort of opaque exactly what that means, but what people were taking this as is basically the people who pay for the $8 check marks, which, by the way, are likely to be a sort of Elon-leaning group ideologically. Anytime they mute or block someone, that is going to be taken into account over whether or not that person's tweets show up algorithmically. So it was a way of it was another suppression regime that he's instituting here with kind of his allies that are willing to pay for the $8 check mark. So another move that is the antithesis of free speech ultimately. So That's the backdrop. And then, Sagar, you were talking about the sort of financial pieces of this, which I think are probably the most important part of the story of how we end up with Elon putting out this poll, which I pretty likely knew what the results were ultimately going to be. It's a way for him to remove himself but save a little bit of face and pretend like he's just listening to the wisdom of the crowd by putting the poll out there. We had gotten word before this that he is seeking new investors in Twitter. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. This relates to what you were saying in his response to Lex Fridman about how Twitter was on its way to bankruptcy since May. They are in a real potential cash crunch because they took on a lot of debt, $13 billion, I think, in debt when Musk purchased Twitter. And that means they're just to service the interest on that debt is $1 billion every year. That's more than Twitter was pulling in before the Elon era. And of course, we know in the Elon era, some certain percentage of advertisers have fled. So what they say in this piece is that he's seeking new Twitter investors at the same price he paid. He has been open, and I think everyone acknowledges that he wildly overpaid for Twitter. So the idea he was going to be able to easily find these investors is a little bit far-fetched. Semaphore originally reported this. They got a hold of a pitch document announcing the new investment opportunity. It's described as a follow-on equity offering for common shares at the original price and terms. And he is, as you pointed out, Sagar, also looking more financially strapped himself. Now, listen, I mean, Elon Musk still has billions and billions of dollars. He's just fine. But he did just sell another $3.6 billion worth of Tesla shares on Wednesday. Presumably, they say to put more equity into Twitter to lower its debt burden. It was the third time he sold Tesla stock since he said in April that he was done. And there's one other piece of this that is interesting. Let's go ahead and put this photo up on the screen. So Elon actually tweeted out his own quote-unquote assassination coordinates. He was at the World Cup in Qatar, and there's a photo here of him with Jared Kushner and a bunch of
Qataris,
probably Qataris, Emiratis, people from the region in the fancy seats at the World Cup. And there was some speculation over whether this was just a visit to enjoy the World Cup, which, by the way, that game was unbelievable and super fun and exciting to watch, or whether he was trying to pull in some additional investment dollars. And I think the presence of Jared Kushner there adds credence to the idea that this was more of a fundraising trip than a pleasure trip.
It's possible the Qataris had an initial stake in Twitter, the Saudis also, the Emiratis as well. I still really believe that a lot of this has to do with Tesla. It's also possible the Tesla board and many other, remember, Tesla is a publicly traded company, so they have all those sorts of shareholder things that they have to abide by. It's very possible that the board may have given him some sort of directive, not outside the realm of possibility, given the stock, and especially the fact that he's dedicating a tremendous amount of his time and burning the stock of one company based upon a private holding of his own. This isn't like Tesla and SpaceX, which in a lot of ways are complementary to each other. You know, one brand enhances the other brand. This is actually a direct drag and also not any financial gain whatsoever. I think this conversation is important because a lot of this belies any of the debates around, quote, doxing, free speech, etc., because it shows you where the massive drain publicly that enough people are fed up, including on the Twitter platform, some 57% voting yes that you should step down. I personally voted yes, full disclosure. Do you know why? Because I think he's better off spending the car company.
Because you like Tesla.
Yeah, because I'm like, go and do what you're really good at, which is creating awesome rocket and car companies. You know, having to sit here and even try and tell people how cool what he did in those spaces almost sounds cringe because what he's doing with Twitter is just so ridiculous.
Insane.
Yeah, and I'm like, listen, you got to understand, like, he actually did a lot of cool stuff before this. You know, I was like, you sound like one of those apologias. I'm really not trying to do it
at this point.
I'm trying not to do it. It's true, though. Yeah, I really recommend people go look. Anyway, the point is that he clearly is feeling the squeeze. If I had to guess, it has most to do with Tesla stock completely, and he's gotten himself in a pickle. $44 billion was already overpriced at the time that he paid it. Then with the market crash, it was probably worth no more than some $20 billion or so. 90-some% of the revenue comes from advertising. A lot of that is drying up as a result of many of the capricious policies, and now he's done really irreparable damage to the Twitter advertising brand. Twitter Blue really better work. I would not bet on it personally. on it working just in the way that it's been rolled out, and even the blocking signal.
I doubt it would rescue them financially anyway.
Well, we've talked
if
about
it is
that.
Successful.
You'd have to make up some $5 billion a year in revenue. So let's say that they've had a 30-some% drop in advertising. I mean, that is a hell of a lot. You can do the math in terms of subscriptions that you would have to sell at $8 or $11 a month. And I think the financial picture here is going to be the major story, as much as it's fun to talk about free speech, et cetera. A lot of that, as we have both said from the beginning, much of it is secondary to the business aims itself.
Yes.
That's why we spend so much time focusing on this.
That's exactly right. You could never have a situation where you were both concerned about maximizing profitability and you were dedicated to free speech. Those things are just going to be in conflict with one another, and kind of relatively frequently going to be in conflict with one another. That's why all of these platforms are run the way that they ultimately are. Also, if you look at Musk's previous track record, like, he doesn't have a track record within his companies or within his life of being an actual free speech absolutist. There's reports that he, asked the Chinese government to censor criticism in China. There's reports that he, right. So, and also, I do want to note, TikTok, notably not
weird.
banned under the policy. Yeah. Interesting. And he's also suppressed speech of workers who want to unionize. So, the way he has operated this has been consistent with the way that he has sort of operated the whole time. There's a lot of very petty and thin-skinned behavior, like Ken Klippenstein, who has been a big Elon Musk critic. He's completely shadow banned on Twitter right now. If you search for him and you don't already follow him, he just doesn't come up, even if you enter in his direct username. So there's a lot of stuff like that going on too. I don't know that Elon is having as much fun running Twitter as he thought he ultimately would. It's been a total financial catastrophe for him. It's hard to see how he digs out of that hole. And so ultimately, I do think that this poll was kind of a clever way to save some face, as he ultimately wanted to step down, was under pressure from a variety of sectors to step down, and now can kind of go back to focusing on Tesla and the other things he was up to. That's what it looks like to me.
Hilarious view of this. Immediately after the poll closed, pre-market trading of Tesla is already up by 5%.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Tesla investors very clearly are very happy about this.
Definitely makes sense. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Soccer and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election. Yeah,
we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.